What up, though? This your boy Big Money Broner, a.k.a. the 7-Mile Destroyer, Isaiah Broner. You're now listening to Wrestling Cheers.
Taking your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when it's your birthday weekend. This is Wrestling Cheers. We like to talk about things going on in Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. We review shows, we preview shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. This is a review of AIW's We Had a Few Hits a Few Years Ago. I'm your host, Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe your ever listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com, and we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said, this is a review for We Had a Few Hits a Few Years Ago. I already introduced myself, and we have back once again this week, Charly Butters.
I don't know how I got here, but it feels like a punishment that you have brought me back again to put me on this show.
To be fair, you accepted to do this like a month ago.
That's true. I did.
Like, you were scheduled for this episode before you were last week's episode.
Yeah, that's true. Only so that we could talk about the curse and how it was broken.
We didn't know. We actually had it. We can get into that here shortly, but there was also the fact of you almost had a scare where it almost lived. But we'll get to that when we get to the curse. And we have none other than Jay Gold, because let's end the year with the same two people reviewing shows that we did earlier in the year. Probably like the biggest combo here on the show of us three all year is so we got Jay Gold.
It's not confidence, it's all ego.
It's not confidence, it's all ass face. Jay Gold.
I don't know, is it all ass face with him, like, or is it like 50-50, 75?
There's not that much ass face. There's much less ass face and much more confidence. Thank you.
So we had this show this past weekend, and Butters, you, much like Joe Sposo, didn't realize this was a Home Alone reference?
So I knew it was referencing something because obviously, like, the show names usually reference something, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. So I asked in the Discord, and Dom told me what it was. And as soon as he said what scene, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I remember that now. But yeah, it didn't come to me right away. It's not like the most popular scene in that film. So,
I mean, it's not the most popular scene, but if you're looking at the flyer, you at least get the Home Alone reference because it's the home is in the middle.
I think that was, I don't know. I just remember that I don't know. I just remember when we were told the name, like, I don't remember specifics. I don't know what the first design was or whatever that we saw from it.
It would have to be the graphic with Ethan Page on it. I feel I'm pretty sure it had the Home Alone home there on it. I mean, I will give it credit. It's not the most famous scene in the movie, and I'm still waiting for like a Jingle All the Way theme or Christmas Story, because this is the third Home Alone reference for a December show. But
if they do a Jingle All the Way one, we got to have Filthy Tom dress up as Turbo Man.
We can get a lot of people, I think, to be Turbo Man, but Filthy might be the number one candidate for you. Butters, what are the other two AIW shows that were named after Home Alone movies or Home Alone references?
I think one was Keep the Change, You Filthy Animals. I think.
Correct.
And I don't know what the other one was. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Wet Bandits.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
I think Wet Bandits is forgotten about because I'm pretty sure that was a Men Are on the Lake show.
Oh, I was going to ask you if that was a Winchester show.
No, I'm fairly certain that was a Men Are on the Lake show.
I'm more preferential to the Sticky Bandits myself. So
I like them both.
I like the Wet Bandits better.
I like Angels with Filthy Souls.
It took me a really long time to know that was not a real movie.
What do you mean it's not a real movie? I have the VHS in my living room.
I can honestly say whichever. I only found out that little nugget in the last probably 5 years of my life.
Does that film star Riley Rose and Lee Johnson?
No, I have that movie, Angels with Filthy Souls, in my living room. I just got it in like last week.
VHS? VHS?
Angels in the Outfield. That's what you're thinking of.
Oh no, I have Angels with Filthy Souls. I forgot I have not posted this on a public forum. They're public, but just more like private Facebook groups. But no, I legitimately bought a VHS for that movie.
What's on it?
I don't know. I haven't put it in yet.
Ah, okay.
But if you were to look at the slipcover for the VHS, there are a ton of Home Alone references and Easter eggs. I just sent it to both of you, cool. And you'll see it. Like the VHS is fairly screen accurate, and then everything like little jokes are on there.
Oh, that's very cool, actually.
The Wet Bandits Pictures presents Angels with Filthy Souls.
Yeah, that's very cool. Speaking of the VHS, I got my hands on the final Derek Dillinger VHS tape this weekend.
So that goes
one of four, right? I think it's one of four.
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was one or four or one of five. And like us three have one. I think Derek has the last one.
Yeah, I think he's holding it for himself.
Well, before we get into the show, what merch did you guys buy? What meet and greets did you do? Anything like that? It seems like we all spent money at the show.
Hell yeah! I'd spent all my time at Derek's because there was several things that I wanted. I got the VHS. I got the new Derek shirt, the Raven with the Ziggy cartoon shirt. I got the Night of Injustice 1 of 5 poster, and from the AIW merch stand, I picked up the one I really wanted was the autographed Ace Degenerates match poster from the show at the Winchester. So I went home with a handful of cool stuff that day, which was great.
I did the meet and greet with Ethan Page and got a autographed 8x10 and a photo. And then I too spent a bunch of money at Derek's table. I got the Night of Injustice 4 out of 5 of the prints. And then I also grabbed a Ace Degenerates autographed poster.
Sadly,
now my Night of Injustice poster, I had Fonzie sign it and I had Ziggy sign it along with Derek. So I just need Justice to sign it. I believe the other people that got their hands on them only had Derek sign it. So
as I said, I had no time to get Ziggy and Fonzie to sign that poster. It was the end of the night. I left it until the very end because I didn't want to be watching it all night.
I didn't get mine until the end of the night, and then Ziggy came up and signed it, and I turned around and there was Fonzie, and he signed it. Yeah.
I had a party to go to, Butters, and I was only there for Derek's signature anyway, and I got it. And maybe one day I'll get, when my new best friend, referee Bill Alfonso, comes to New York, maybe I'll have him sign it that day.
Could have had him sign it at the party.
That's right. But you know what? I was drinking and I was protecting it like it was a baby cub, and I didn't want anybody to squish it or bend it. So I didn't have time or a marker for Bill Alfonso to whip out a marker at Dive Bar and have him sign it.
Yeah, what kind of random person would do that?
You're just unprepared.
Justin, I see what you did there.
Butters, talk about the breaking of the curse and what I hinted at earlier. So that actually gets tied up of you almost let the curse live.
Okay, so there was a running gag with you and I that there was a curse that I could not see Ethan Page at AIW. Because once I started coming to shows again and I was going to them every single month, Ethan Page all of a sudden was just not on them. And then the one time he was on a show was a Thursday when I couldn't go. So that's where it was kind of born. And then when they did the Indianapolis shows and he was going to be on those. I wasn't able to make the first one because I was sick. Well, I had a health scare and I just thought it played it safe and stayed home. The second time at the Collective, my buddy's car broke down, so he couldn't come get me. So I didn't really have a ride there, and I wasn't going to drive by myself all the way to Indianapolis. So that stopped me from seeing him both times at AIW as the Karate Man. So I was like, well, you know, like, and I think we joked about it on Twitter at the time, and he caught wind of it and DM'd me, and we talked about it. And he's like, oh, you know, we'll see each other again. And I was like, we've seen each other a bunch of times at Black Label Pro, but it's just the AIW curse of not seeing him there. So after all this time, he's going to be at AIW. We get to this week, and like Tuesday, I start feeling sick. Wednesday, I had a fever. I'm like, oh, I got COVID. I'm not going to be able to go to the show. Of course, the curse is going to live on. Luckily, though, my test came back negative. It was just like, I don't know, a day flu or something, because I've felt fine since. And got to meet him at the show, tell him the story about that. And then, so curse is now lifted.
As for me, unfortunately, I did not spend any money at Derek's table. I think he was trying to push something on me, but I kind of had an agenda of things that I needed to buy and pay for. First thing was first, actually, before the show, at least a few days before the show, Swoggle was promoting his website and like he was making deals or something or something like along the line. If you want something for Christmas, like order now. And I'm like, I'll go out and send it all out tomorrow. And I was kind of thinking, well, if that's the case, if I want anything, I can tell you and you can just bring it to Cleveland. And luckily the thing that I wanted is very small. No, not Hornswoggle, but I wanted one of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast cards. It's not the big sign ones that went around a couple months ago where they got all these people to do. It's like there was these WCW cards that were like that. No, these, if you're a part of the the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Patreon, if you're on at the highest tier, you get a free card every month. And it has some obviously it'll vary from month to month, but they also have variants within that month. And one of my favorites, the one that I didn't get, is a drunk Hornswoggle with some brown metallic on it, because they have a joke with him that he has doo-doo and chocolate fingers. So it almost looks like chocolate dripping on it and all this kind of stuff. Like a kid messed with the card. Unfortunately, I didn't get that one sent to me. I got the regular one that's just him drunk on a hotel cart. But he had them for sale in his store. And that's all. I was like, hey, like, are you going to bring, can I ask you to bring something and pay for it there? He's like, yeah. He hit me up through the DMs and told him which one I wanted, brought it with him, paid for it. And because I got to do the interview with him, like I wanted to like pay him back a little bit. So I bought like some of his stuff. Like I bought that. I bought his book. I've already listened to the audiobook 2 years ago, but like now I have a physical copy in hand that he signed. Also got my 2 other Swoggle Major Wrestling Figure Podcast cards signed. And I bought his little wrestling buddy that the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast put out. So that was like first on my list. Then I went over to Ethan Page. Now, I don't know how far back people have listened. Like, yeah, he was on the show at one point. And like thing that me and him used to love talking about was like superhero movies and everything. And he actually a few years ago accused me of spoiling Infinity War for him. But he thought I did it on purpose because I figured Gamora was going to die. Like she was going to get sacrificed for the Soul Stone. Spoiler if you haven't seen it already. And I just went by the logic of, I know the Soul Stone, you have to sacrifice somebody. And like the very few lines Thanos had up to that point, he called Gamora his favorite daughter. And I'm like, right there. So as soon as he sees me, as soon as I should say get to his table, because he locks eyes with me and all that kind of stuff. We joke around a little bit. But once I get to the table, he's like, don't spoil Spider-Man for me. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, just seen it the day before. Gave him my review. I mean, I said, I'm like, it's pretty good. He's like, what, pretty good? Everybody's saying it's great. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not a huge Spider-Man fan. I'm like, it's still good. Like, I don't have that like hardcore nostalgia for the character, but still like there's a lot of fun stuff. And I think the only, not even spoiler thing, I said one of my favorite villains through Spider-Man, like through the movies, has been Doc Ock. And now I like Doc Ock even more in this movie. So we kind of left it at that. But the funny thing that I realized with Ethan Page recently was I don't have an 8x10 of him. I've been watching him for 9 years. I've gone to his merch table and bought countless things. I never bought an 8x10. So I made sure I did that. So I got the combo, got my picture with him. And then also, I'm not a huge fan of them, but he did get figures made through the figure toy company. They're not great, but I wanted to support him. So bought one, got it signed. I had fun talking with him just briefly, updated him a little bit about me. He told him I got married and everything. And like, we talked about that briefly, and like, it's cool as shit. We'll get to more on Ethan Page, his match and all that stuff later, because I think that's very big. But also, if you didn't make this show and you still want to meet Ethan Page, still Toy Hio. He was just announced for that. Him and Danhausen, both Danhausen, coming back. So if you want to go check it out, I highly recommend it.
Oh, we got to tell everybody about our Christmas presents Ethan Page gave us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ethan Page must have been clearing out stock for all his website stuff. So for free, we got either a plastic cup, like one of those like plastic cups, plastic lid, and like reusable straw and everything, or you got a tumbler. Is that a tumbler?
Yeah, they consider those ones with the plastic straw and the resealable lid. Yeah, a tumbler. Okay,
I was thinking like a different tumbler, but yeah. And then if it wasn't that, you got a shaker bottle.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody out there doesn't want their shaker bottle, let me know. I would like to take it off their hands. Only shaker bottle I have, which I haven't used one in a while, but it was a WWE crate one with AJ Styles, and now like the stuff is like coming off the side, and I'm like, I can just kind of get rid of this one. So if you don't want yours, and it's just going to sit around, let me know. Maybe I'll pay you a little bit for it. Maybe not. We can talk. But yeah, that was all my experiences. I will tease a little bit that I did have a conversation with Jocelyn, and more to come on that when things actually happen. But potentially expect a Jocelyn Navarro shirt soon. Other than that, I believe that was all my interactions, everything, meet and greets, all that kind of fun stuff. I guess if there's nothing else, we can get into the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we start things off with the Rip City shooters coming out and saying that PME's not there. They're out in Chicago or somewhere with Cardona trying to get signed to Impact. So the solution they have for the night is that the winners of all the tag team matches on this show will advance to the main event and face them in a ladder match for the number one contendership for the AIW tag team titles. I believe I explained that.
That's correct. And whether or not there was an audible called on that main event, it was the best possible outcome we could ask for. So, if you were still waiting on that ladder match, it amped up it almost felt again like a tournament. And as I've said before, anytime you can do like tournament style or eliminations, there's a lot more at stake. So it gave you more intrigue for the main event. I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed to hear that PME wasn't there, but it added to what was already felt like, if you looked at the card, a very chaotic night, and things were constantly shifting, and so I think that was the best way to go.
Any thoughts on it, Butters?
Nope. I mean, there's not much you can do. Stuff gets changed, card subject to change. So, that happens. So at least we're going to have some type of ladder match.
The only disappointment I have about it all is the fact, at least in my opinion, there was kind of a loophole on the card about this that could have really changed the main event, but I'll get to that when we get to that point. I think there's a reason why they didn't go that direction, but nonetheless, let's get into the first match that we did get after that. Well, no way to start the show off than your alarm clock hitting is 9 to 5 versus bulking season. Were you guys awake for this one?
Yeah, I love. First of all, I love bulking season. I think they're really starting to catch that buzz. And 9 to 5. When you start to watch 9 to 5 now, you can really. Louis Linden is a solid, really, really solid guy, solid worker, and Jack Vervelle, right? Vervelle. I don't know much about him. I never have, but I do know that they play their part the way they need to. The minute that alarm goes off, everybody gets so angry because I think I heard somebody on one side start yelling at them, "Work from home." That was amazing. What a great line. But yeah, the matchup itself was good style mixture because you could get more off the ground with Lewis. And then you have Chuck, who's becoming slowly like the monster of that team, and Arthur is like a real workhorse. So it's a good way to start the night. I thought that 9 to 5 gets a lot of heat. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with the pace of the match, and it didn't feel like it went too long, and it was definitely a fun match.
I never thought of the work from home part. There's a lot of stuff that you can like yell at them or chant at them. My favorite thing that I've always done is I always yell 5 more minutes when the alarm clock's hitting.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of ways to go. I thought that was the most clever one that I heard shouted that night.
I thought there was another one I heard around us, but I don't remember what it was. But there's always so much good with that.
You know what I forgot to ask you? Where were you sitting? Were you on the stage, or you were just below it? We
were just below it in the newly reopened section. Where like in between the ring and the stage.
Yeah.
I was a dumbass and took the aisle seat. And as I'm taking pictures, I realize I'm getting a lot of ring post, which I've, live tweeted enough of these shows to know referees will like to always hide in the corner post, especially like where we were facing hard cam. So like they do it so they're out of the picture. But for me, it's like, fuck, there were so many pictures and things that I just got ruined or just kind of like look like shit. Just fucking sucked.
Well, I mean, as long as it, I know you like to take pictures and stay updated during the shows, but as long as it was on IWTV, at least there's a spot you could either screen cap or do things like that if you ever need to go back and reference it.
Well, no, like it's taking pictures for like live tweeting, and that's actually something I have thought of when it comes to when they're on IWTV, because like the history of doing live tweeting for Wrestling Cheers, even back when it was the Ohio Indie Report, was back when there was no stream for the show. Like it was like you either went to the show or you didn't. And if you didn't, you were waiting for like some results to be posted online or the benefit of maybe somebody's going to be there live tweeting it. And I noticed early on that like AIW didn't really have anybody dedicated to that. So that's what I started doing. And I did
That's
notice.
what I started watching, by the way, Summers, when I first started going to shows and they weren't on Fight or there was no IWTV, I would watch Wrestling Cheers' Twitter to get my information.
That is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like back then, it made a lot of sense. Even like back then we were doing, I shouldn't say back then, but at one point 3-4 years ago, we were doing Instagram stories, like little highlights that people can watch.
Yeah.
And I received a lot of compliments from people who like couldn't go to shows, and sometimes because we would get people out of the area. So now you have IWTV, you don't need Twitter. Like the Twitter stuff's cool. And even if you don't, like you're going to have people screen capping and gifting like stuff from IWTV, and you don't need me anymore. But one of the kind of benefits, like literally while I'm reading the show stuff, I'm reading just off my tweets. Like I can pull up because I have it in another window. I have Cage Match, but I don't know. I like having my tweets in front of me. But I know, like I said, it's just not as needed as it used to be. Yeah,
I rely on it when they're not on IWTV, which is still a good thing. But I think when they're doing their live streams, you don't have to get yourself, too nervous if you're not in the right position, especially when they're live streaming.
Yeah. Butters, your thoughts on the match?
This match was the perfect amount of time to leave the show, go all the way down to the parking lot by Margaritaville, change your jacket and walk all the way back and get back inside before the next match starts.
What the hell?
That's not any disrespect to the 4 performers in the match. I needed to go, so I figured I would just do it right then and there, so I didn't miss anything else on the show. I did go back and watch the match on IWTV yesterday, and I enjoyed it. But I had some stuff I had to do. I took my stuff that I had purchased, and I took that out to the car and switched out my jacket.
Did you have to pay to park at that parking lot?
Yeah.
I was going to ask, did you have to pay to watch the IWTV yesterday for the to finish the match?
Just my normal monthly fee.
Oh, no free stream yet, huh?
I don't pay. I've still paid.
I say that because I ended up parking at the parking lot across from from behind the Odeon, and their parking system wasn't working to pay for it. So I parked for free.
Nice.
Granted, again, it's behind the Odeon, but still, nice little benefit there. I did not go back to my car, and everything that I mentioned I bought earlier, I had with me, and I ended up having to put in the second row because I was like, at one point, shit's going to get crazy, and I at least have the 8x10 there that's, could get tore and everything, and I thought, well, even the figure can get crushed, but yeah. I let everything stay. I only had one point which I think it was in Derek's match, where they came right towards us and shit got fucked up with the chairs and everything and kind of messed with the stuff. But other than that, not a big issue. But I think when you left, I was like, maybe I should do the same thing to her. Or even, I think it was before the show, I was like, I could go back. I think it was like 15 minutes before the show was going to start. I was like, I can run back real quick. And I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I'll just stay right here.
I put all my tchotchkes on their own chair, and then I stood behind it the whole night. I just looked at I took my coat, I covered up my Ace Degenerates poster and all my stuff in the other bag, and I covered it up, and that was the chair that had all my tchotchkes, and then I sat at the bar with my brother watching the show from back there so I could enjoy a cocktail while the show was going on.
Josh is that guy that old lady that goes to the store and, buys just like a bunch of stuff and then takes the bus back home.
That's right. That was my night. Just like a little old lady.
Bus or subway, whatever it may be for the particular neighborhood.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to get you a cart next time you come to Cleveland.
I know. I was like, I should have brought a book bag. Like I was saying that before I left the house, on Thursday night, I was like, oh, bring a book bag because you're going to get some stuff. And I completely dismissed it. I was like, whatever. And then I'm standing there asking Margaritaville before we get in the show for a plastic bag so I could throw all my crap in it. I have to carry it around dive bar. My God, all the coolness was just sucked right out of the room when I walked in.
I thought the Odeon had a bag policy. They did at one point, but I will say ever since they came back this year, like it's not as big of an issue. Cause I know I used to have a bag that I would bring to every single show. It was like a old messenger bag that I had, and I just covered it with a bunch of pins of random stuff that I like. And like
I think they have a bottle policy, by the way.
Oh, they do, but I've broken that so many times. Here's the key. Spoiler alert. If you ever want to bring a bottle into the Odeon, just don't walk up with it in your hands. Keep it in your pocket the whole time or whatever it may be, like, and you'll be fine. But I've noticed that the bag policy has kind of gone by the wayside. Because I even thought about, like, I've brought stuff to the Odeon to get signed, and like those were obviously in like plastic bags, and like those were fine. So I don't know if maybe it's because plastic bags and like I had a messenger bag and whether book bags are different and all that kind of stuff. But that's why I haven't brought a bag to a show in a long time, because I think I learned at Mount Carmel, hey, bring a bag, because then like if you get 8x10s or any merch, like you can put it in there and it's going to at least save it a little bit. But if you go to a bar afterwards, then, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I think this match was a great place to start. You have bulking season over this past year has been really on fire. 9 to 5 has, made their presence felt, but they're not necessarily here every single month, but they're very much hated.
Oh yeah. There's something about, the gimmick itself that just lends itself to hate. The working gimmick, the getting up and working in corporate stupid ties. And, but I was yelling, I think I was in my head, I'm like, Just ask him to put on dress shoes. Commit to the bit 100%. If you're going to come in the ring in work clothes, they should wrestle in wingtips as opposed to wrestling boots. That's the real commitment. Let's see you get that done.
Oh, that hurts my feet just thinking about it.
Yeah, but let's see it, fellas. Come on. You're miserable at work. You come right in from work. You're wearing your brown penny loafers. Now get in there and kick somebody's ass. That's what I'm talking about.
Any other thoughts on this match?
Nope.
It was bulking season that picked up the victory. I believe it was it Chuck pinning Lewis?
Yeah, there was some, Lewis did take the pin. I know that.
It was one of those things that I didn't get to tweet exactly how the pinfall happened, but I see in my picture Lewis is in the ring and Chuck's kind of in the ring too, but not really. But that's what I do believe it was. I think it was Chuck pinned Lewis. Well, Butters, you just rewatched it or watched it
yesterday. Yesterday's gone, my friend.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. All right, let's move on to the next match. Unannounced, Ethan Wright comes out and, he talks about how he still can't be, or he's still not on the card. And, he's trained by Harley Race and blah, 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 blah. And there's still no one that could beat him because he beat Dom and there's nobody else left. Out comes Pretty Boy Smooth, former AIW Absolute Champion, as well as former AIW Tag Team Champion.
Now I Ethan Wright has grown on me since Go for Broke. I like everything that he looks. I love his entrance music a ton, and it just sets the tone for him. And I thought
it's terrible.
I don't know what you always say that. I don't know why. I enjoy it very much. I think it's got a good feel to it, and that if a heel's coming out to that music. And we may not agree on it, Butters, but I really do. I like his whole package, in presentation. And I thought this match was okay. I think the ending got messed up. But PB's always going to be PB. And, I think he's great at everything that he does. So he doesn't really need that win, but he does. One thing we should talk about is he probably needs direction. I don't know where they're going with him, but he's kind of becoming like a second or third match on the card, and there's no consequences to really what's going on. So I think, that would be a future conversation, but I thought the match was fine. The ending was a bit messed up, and it got over what we needed to see at the end. I don't want to skip all the way to the end, Justin, but when you get to it, we can discuss where that went.
Yeah, Ethan Wright showed more personality this month, and he talked shit to the crowd and would stop what he was saying and actually, jabber with the crowd. So he's making improvements to the character. I did mention that to him, and he's like, "Oh, thanks," and told him I'd mention it on the show because it's true. I think that it's he's slowly putting the pieces together there, and I'm excited to see this feud continue. So
I don't know what people have been telling Ethan Wright, but here at Wrestling Cheers, we are big fans of Ethan Wright. We think he is a phenomenal talent. He is head and shoulders above the rest and one of the best damn wrestlers on the card. Now, if you're telling him otherwise, then you're wrong and you're lying, and you need to fix that because we are huge fans of the guy.
I mean, I wasn't in the beginning, but he got me.
Shut
now,
up!
So
we are all big fans of Ethan Wright. That is the stance here on Wrestling Cheers. And if anybody is telling Ethan Wright differently, they are wrong and lying. Right, Jacob?
You're right. That is correct.
I also think Casey Carrington is a prick. So,
which we did not get Casey Carrington this time around, which I have no idea why we did not see him, but
he's scared of me. That's why he was running his mouth on Twitter, and he knew he was going to have to face me at the show, and he didn't show up. He's scared of me.
That had to be it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Dom was showing me some moves, so now, he messes with me. I'm going to choke him out at ringside.
I thought it was because Ethan Wright gave him the night off.
That's the excuse. He was afraid of me. That's the truth.
Well, we didn't get him, but we did get PB getting a beating, and then Dom came in and hit Ethan Wright really, really hard. He he hit him right. I mean, I don't know if you guys thought the same thing, but he hit Ethan right in the mug. And that kind of set the tone for some other big shots over the evening, but that was a big one.
Oh, Jay Gold, you jumped over a bunch of things.
Oh, God damn it. Did I?
Ethan Wright picked up the pinfall after hitting PB with a low blow.
Oh, right.
And that's something that's been a pattern for Ethan Wright lately. And then after the match, Ethan Wright tries to hit Smooth with a chair, but out comes Dominic Greeny for the save and runs Ethan Wright off. So there was still a little bit of the story there. I do agree that we are starting to see like more personality from Ethan Wright. And I think maybe it's because we're starting to get actual storyline. We got it in Go for Broke, but that was pre-recorded stuff. But now we're getting it live month after month. And, he's going against people we love, especially Dominic Greeny.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that match when it happens, how that is going to manifest itself, because maybe I don't know why Carson wasn't there on Saturday night, but that little trio they had going on, Ethan Wright and Carson and all those guys. But I think I think you're gonna see something pretty hard hitting when they finally do get in there and Dom gets his comeuppance, so to speak.
Any other thoughts on the match, guys?
Nope.
How about you, Butters?
Nope.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We got members only Malcolm Cambridge and Calvin G. Lewis versus the motherfucking main event.
Yeah, these I don't know. Every time I look at the main event, I mean, are you guys? These guys are monsters. Duke Davis is the biggest dude I think that has walked through the doors at AIW. He's bigger than Bishop. He might be maybe an inch shorter than PB, but probably 6 inches wider. He is chiseled like a Greek god. And Gannon Jones they're huge. They look like ready-made TV superstars the second they walk out. I think I just get a kick out of them every time they come out. I think members only have a really nice future, but when they stepped in there, hoo boy, that looked like a before and after taking growth pills. Like they were the tiny little fellas in there, and the main event were just men. My goodness. Like I give credit to all four of them though, because they didn't work like they were wrestling guys who were like, 8-9 inches shorter than them. They actually locked up. There were some good, power moves. They sold really well for the guys over at members only. It was that the match was good. But man, watching the main event, they are stars. I mean, I don't know what you guys think as far as, why they haven't been signed, but holy moly, they are ready.
How about you, Butters?
Yeah, man, this match, like I was excited for it. And there was a lot of little fun stuff at the beginning with them, like putting them up on the top rope and that kind of stuff because they're so much shorter. But once things got going, it was real intense. It was real good.
Yeah, there's just something about the main event. They're fucking stars, and they're constantly grinding and all this kind of stuff. I love them. Also, I love members only, especially after fucking up their name. I've made it up to them. I bought a membership card. I bought a shirt. I even wore the shirt to this show to show support. Yeah, but there's just something about the main event, and they're going to be signed sooner or later. There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't. I can understand
yeah.
Maybe it's not their time right now, but eventually it will. It has to be.
I mean, they're bigger than all the other tag teams in AIW. They're bigger than all the tag teams in AEW. And I don't even know how many tag teams in WWE would be the same size as them. I mean, they look like like Mark Callis when Undertaker was Mark Callis and Danny Spivey, when they were like the Twin Towers or whatever they were called. I mean, they're just gigantic. Their gear is right on point. Their movements, everything they do is like right on point for the size they are, for the athleticism. I mean, they're going places, but I think it's a really nice test for members only to see if they could do it. They kept up just fine. They did really well. for what is it, like the 5th match they've ever had on television. I mean, God bless them. They did their best out there, and you know, sure, when they hugged him at the end, I think Malcolm was like up to Duke Davis's waistline, but you know, they did their best and they worked their butt off out there.
Anything to add, Butters?
No.
All right, it was Duke Davis pinning Malcolm Cambridge for the main event to advance to the main event. So Butters, it's kind of odd that I made that joke last week about the main event being in the main event, and they were in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the best audible you could call. Look at the 3 tag teams then after this match. Who was going to be in the main event? And if you could say, but you know what? Besides, I would have said Bitcoin, but maybe Mikey isn't 100% healed yet to go into something like that. But if you could have 3 teams going for that number 1 contender spot, you cannot go wrong with the differences in styles as bulking season, main event, and then Rip City. So that set the fans off. Everybody was pretty excited to know that was going to be the main event.
Yeah, I was pulling for main event to win at that point because I felt like they deserved a tag title match since they beat the current champions before they won the belts. So I felt like they were next in line anyway. So now they got their contract, so they will get a shot. So I'm happy about that. So I just spoiled the whole main event because, yeah.
We'll clean it up in post.
Mark it down.
Okay, Jiggold.
Hey, it wasn't me this time. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next match. We got Jocelyn Navarro versus Chase Oliver. And this was one of those matches that it was Jocelyn out here to prove that she belongs in AIW against a talent such as Chase Oliver and all that kind of stuff. Your thoughts, Jiggold?
I love Jocelyn. Love her. I like Chase a ton. So, and I don't know if I agree with you where Jocelyn needed to prove herself. I think she's top tier right now as far as put her in the ring with anybody. I think she's going to be able to go. But yeah, I mean, Chase looks like $1 million. He looks like a guy you can put on television. He also looks like a guy you could take seriously in any match he's in. So you could take him seriously if he was in an intense match, if he was in an absolute match. You could take him seriously with his shape and the way he looks and the way he moves. And Jocelyn is starting to she's getting that scrapper mentality. She could really go out there and throw down with almost any one of these guys, and I wouldn't worry about her in the ring. I think that match with Thunder Rosa really solidified her, and I think now it's just she's just a sewn into the fabric of AIW, so that when you see her in a match, you're like, yeah, I think Jocelyn has a really good chance of winning this match every time now, and I think that's the height you want to get to if you're somebody in her position where you can be taken seriously every time you come through the curtain.
What were your thoughts, Butters?
Yeah, this was like a coin flip for me. Like when we were discussing it originally, I enjoy both of these two immensely, and they've both been on a streak lately. So this was, going head to head, seeing what was going to come out of it, see, some placement going forward. Everybody's scratching and clawing for, hopefully a title opportunity when the champion decides to actually show up and defend his titles. So I feel like this was definitely a, not even a proving match, but like who's going to, get to that next rung of the ladder to get themselves a shot at the a title. And they went out there and did everything they could. And it was excellent. Unfortunately, like people kind of turned on Chase at one point. Unfortunately, Jocelyn lost her hair. So things happen. It sucks that happened. But she continued on and whooped some ass. So, I mean, it didn't take away from anything. I thought it was just kind of funny that everybody booed him for that. It wasn't like he purposely did it or anything, but, things happened in the ring and they recovered well and everything went, good the rest of the match, and I enjoyed it.
I mean, I don't know what it means in that type of culture, because I don't know if necessarily black culture, whether, and being a woman, of, taking a wig off. Because what it felt like in the middle of the match was almost like when you take off a Mexican wrestler's mask. So I don't know if removing of a wig means something to other people.
You just don't want to feel her embarrassed. You don't want to embarrass somebody. I think that's all it is. I think in the end, regardless of who it is, you don't want her to feel embarrassed or the other person to feel embarrassed. So, but she's tough as nails. She just shook it off and went ahead and finished it off. So, in the end, that probably felt uncomfortable for some people, to start, but she was A-okay. Like, and she's not, Jocelyn is honestly, she's not over, too proud to be like, oh crap, and like scramble. She went ahead and got her business done. And I like that. And I respect her even more for that.
Earlier, Jay Gold, you kind of like made a comment about what I said about, this was a proving ground match for Jocelyn. Like, I know the match against Thunder Rosa was huge, but I kind of think among like Jocelyn with being in the card and everything, it's one of those things like proving to people like she belongs here. She can do it. Like a lot of us have the faith in her, but she's always going to be pushing it to the next level and proving that she does belong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think there also has to come a time where you stop proving and you start being. So, one day we're gonna look back at this and say, she's gonna be in the middle of some really big match, and we're gonna be like, yeah, she just talking about her like, hey, I have Jocelyn in this match because that other person needs to prove themselves. You know what I mean? Like she's gonna get there.
When Jocelyn goes up against Shayna, gets the belt back.
Sure. We'll DM Shayna and see if she'll do that for everybody.
I'll send her some beer and she can send the belt back. That'll be like a fair trade.
Fair trade.
Any of your thoughts on this match?
Nope.
Jocelyn got the pin on Chase Oliver. Hell yeah, former girl. Love Jocelyn here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Next up was Ethan Page versus Dylan Hornswoggle Postel. And before the match could officially get started, out comes the Duke and the Bitcoin Boys. It was a nice little back and forth between all of them. Get all of that on IWTV. But Swoggle basically challenged them to a 6-man match and says he had somebody prepared on standby to be their third man. And a lot of people in the crowd thought a different John was coming out. But no, got 99 problems and a bitch ain't one. John motherfucking the Passion Thorn. This is a spot that I want to go back and watch because I want to hear the pop because we all flipped our shit.
I did not know where they were going to go at first with that because, first I thought Ethan and Ethan Page and Swoggle were going to have a comedy match. So I'm like, okay, this is the way we're going to see this. Maybe there'll be some chicanery in there or something. Then when Duke and the Bitcoin Boys came out, I was like, I honestly, and this is just me being overly optimistic. I said, holy shit, they're going to get Gargano to come out. Right. That was just me. That's all I thought. Doesn't mean we were even in the same ballpark. But Duke was running everybody down. He laid into Orange Flaccidity, our boy Jake at ringside, lit him up. Duke was on one. They were shouting at each other. Swoggle decided to say, I have somebody for the occasion. I was not disappointed to see Mr. Thorne come out as opposed to Johnny Gargano. And we were off to the races. And I think people were – that music just gets people hyped. I mean, I know you Cleveland guys, you love it. You love seeing Thorne go out there. And that was really fun to be a part of and see him come out.
Yeah, it was wild. Like I was hoping, I was really like, honestly, in the moment, I didn't know who it was going to be. So when 99 Problems hit, I was like, okay, I was like, this is going to be amazing. Like I was like screaming. And then the next thing I remember is like, he backdropped somebody on the ramp and then he was in the ring and just like going crazy. It was a lot of fun. Mikey and Swoggle and Ethan Page were over in our little corner. and like Swoggle got like both of his hands in Mikey's mouth and like was chopping him and just beating the shit out of him. It was wild.
I mean, it's not your classic, chain wrestling match, which I thought would have been absolutely hilarious if Swoggle and Ethan Page just had a chain wrestling match. Wouldn't that? I mean, sometimes you just gotta love that. Like, but that was my thought for Fonzie and Ziggy later. But regardless, just an outright ridiculous like schmoz of Legos were in the ring and Duke was in there taking punches from all three guys, and Thorne is throwing flying elbow shoulder blocks, and Swoggle's doing his. Both of those, the Bitcoin Boys bump better than I think anybody on the roster. I mean, Mikey took one of those into the Legos, and then Eric took one from Ethan Page into the Legos, and you had to know that at the end you were going to get they were going to get the win, but it was fun. I mean, it just made sense for that point going into intermission. With what they were doing next, it was super fun. It was just something that like kept the mood light, and I think for the holiday season that was a lot of fun.
As much as I would have loved to have seen, Ethan Page versus Hornswoggle one-on-one, adding in Thorne, going up against the Duke and the Bitcoin Boys and all the fun that you could have there, like this was well worth it. And of course, we don't get those moments with Thorne coming out a lot. Even like the last time he came out, he was just coming out as John Thorne, not to wrestle. And everybody kind of got excited because we thought like it was going to be something with him and Bishop. And he's like, no, that's not what's going on right now. But we got this. It's fucking sweet.
Definitely. And for his birthday and everything else, it was really good.
As of this recording, we're actually in the last like half hour of his birthday. So by the time you listen to this, it'll be days past.
Or today is his birthday. It's John Thorne's birthday.
It's to what I said. We have a half hour left of his birthday.
Sorry, I completely spaced on the timing. I don't even remember what time it is. But yeah, you're right.
The Duke and the Bitcoin Boys got the win, but it wasn't necessarily a great victory for them because this one it was very hard to tweet out. But it was basically Swoggle and Ethan Page took out the Bitcoin Boys, and then the only thing you have left is the Duke. He was kind of like I think on the side in the corner or something. We did have Pedro bring out a birthday cake for John Thorne, and that went into the Duke's face, if I'm correct. But there was also a very great speech from both Swoggle and Ethan Page. I think the one that was the best was Ethan Page, taking a moment to like give back to us, saying like how before he got signed, he wanted to do, kind of like a farewell tour to the Indies, but luckily that he's in AEW, he's allowed to come back and visit, and he will come back, and he thanks both Thorne and Biggins for giving him that opportunity years ago and believing in him so much, and how it kind of sucks that Biggins isn't here today to, see Ethan Page on TV. And, at that moment, Ethan Page, you could tell was getting a little choked up, but to me, it was all of us. We all felt it. And, there's a lot of moments that I kind of think within AIW or life in general where like, damn, imagine if Biggins was around right now. Because what I said privately was not only would he have been, excited to see Ethan Page on that show, but he would be one of the biggest advocates for not only Toy Hio, but like the Major Wrestling Figure podcast and their group, and he'd be buying and selling left and right. And he is thoroughly missed within this community.
It's amazing. This is from an outsider. It's truly amazing to hear the impact that AIW and Chandler Biggins and John Thorne have had in the last 15 years, I would say, on the wrestling world. Every star that has gone through those doors never forgets where they came from and never forgets the relationship they had with somebody like Biggins or somebody like Thorne. And it's, you can't say it's the same anywhere else. These guys are not leaving GCW and then going, I got to thank Brett Lawton, because fuck that dude. But people are leaving AIW to go get a shot, let's say at AEW, or go get a shot at NXT. And man, oh man, it's almost like they're like, I'm so excited to go do this, but I really don't want to leave AIW. And I think that's a testament to those two guys, who they are. And it's a testament to you guys as the fans and the people of Ohio who have made it like this family atmosphere. And so when Ethan Page goes up there and he's in tears, you really feel it. It's amazing. And it's not a lie. And every guy who has come back to do these things has the same debt of gratitude owed to AIW as the next guy. And that's amazing. It's positively amazing. So that that was a really nice way that they ended the first half of the show. And it was amazing to see how humble Ethan Page was. I got a chance to spend some time with him at the after party, and he's just as humble in person there too. And it just made me want to root for him even more. And it just makes me, every day, never regret the fact that I ever started coming to those shows and seeing what that company means to people. It's amazing. Just it really is.
Anything to add, Butters?
Nope.
You're a man of many words.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
That is right.
After this, we went to intermission, and we came back with this. Levi Everett versus Derek Dillinger versus Filthy Tom Lawler versus not Kaplan, but Isaiah Broner. Holy fuck. First thing that I do got to mention before we get into like the actual match, Filthy Tom Lawler coming out to Santa Claus is a Fat Bitch. I popped for it. Like within the first 2 seconds of hearing the song. Huge pop. And this match got started very quickly after that point with Derek throwing a chair at Filthy Tom. Thoughts on the match? Jay Gold.
I mean, I think at one point I heard somebody in the crowd was like, this is like a New Japan match. Like, they were hitting each other so fucking hard. And Broner built like a brick wall, taking shots from Derek. And then at one point he hit Derek so hard, Derek was loopy. He slapped the Christ out of Derek's face at one part. It was so loud. And then he traded blows with Tom Lawler, which we can all explain our reactions to. But the forearm shiver that Broner hit Tom Lawler with, honestly, I saw Tom Lawler's soul leave his body. He hit him so hard, the puff of sweat and human that came out of that punch, these guys put on a clinic as strong style. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't like, no one was bleeding. They just put on a clinic of strong style. 3 out of the 4 guys are very strong style, but I really think Levi can adapt to everything. He really gets in there. He can take a beating too. But that was some match, and Isaiah Broner, welcome to the big time, my friend, because he absolutely deserves to be elevated to the next level as far as his career goes after that match. Tom Lawler is amazing, and Derek, in my view, is top 3 in the company. So, all 4 guys, bravo, and it was really, really well done.
Isaiah fucking Dr. Stranged that motherfucker.
He really did.
Thoughts on the match, Butters?
Being in the seats that we were in, it was really great to hear how vocal Derek was during the match, like yelling at people and talking shit while he was doing stuff. It was really fun. And then at certain points, he was like resting over in our corner. So we were talking strategy with him, which was really funny. This match was, hard hitting. Like Jay Gold said, it was, very much had all kinds of different styles of stuff in it. Like, Derek got speared to the outside and like ate the guardrail at the back of his head. And like, it was just wild, just a wild fight. You got to see Isaiah like go up against these 3 guys. You got to see some fun comedy stuff with Levi. This was just good stuff all the way around. This was probably my match of the night. I really enjoyed this match.
Talk about being vocal. I don't know how many times I heard Isaiah say, "Come on, bitch," at different people throughout the match.
I mean, they hit him all 3. At one point, Lawler slapped him in the back and goes, "Come on, big fella." And he turned around and they started that exchange. And Derek was throwing one of Isaiah Broner's, I'm not kidding you, his clothesline hit Derek in like that shoulder neck area. Mm-hmm. And it stumbled Derek point. Like, do you remember? Like he went down like on his knee and he was just like, he wasn't even there. Like it was almost like he wasn't in the ring anymore. Mentally, he got hit so hard it like stunned him backwards. And they were just they were two-handing chopping each other. They were forearm blasting each other in that shoulder neck area. I mean, and I thank God I saw Tom Lawler afterwards, so he was alive at the after party. But that shot was brutal, and that was everywhere the next day, all over Twitter. And if you're Isaiah Broner, you have arrived, because everyone is talking about that forearm. Everybody.
Well, it's like I said on Twitter, it's another AIW show and another GIF-worthy performance from Isaiah Broner killing a man. So,
right.
I mean, like, yeah, when he hit Derek, Derek stumbled, and then like he hit that punch, and Derek just like went down and rolled like in a circle.
Yeah, I mean, but let those guys go again. I would love a program, either Derek and Tom Lawler. I would love to see those two beat the crap out of each other in a best of 3, like him and Justice. I would love to see Lawler and Broner go at it in a best of 7. Can you imagine those two just beating the piss out of each other for 7 matches? Or Derek and Broner going at it. Those 3 guys, I could see. Those 3 guys are all up there. No offense to Levi, I love Levi, I love him. But when I think of the division, that kind of division, I would put Lawler at the strong style. I would call it maybe an AIW strong style division. Broner, Lawler, Derek, the intense area. And then Levi could come in and out. I mean, I'm not disqualifying Levi, because he's a tough he's so tough, and he got, and he got himself where he needed to be. But those 3 guys, holy shit. I mean, that was some exchange, all of them.
Yeah, this is a great way to come back from intermission too. Just all this absolute craziness. Any more thoughts on it?
Well, you want to talk about the end? Levi's ultimatum.
I was going to get to that point, make sure there's nothing else about the match itself that needed to be covered, and then I go into the finish.
Aha.
It was Levi pinning Derek for the win, and then after the match, Levi asked for the microphone, which is a first time in AIW. He said that he was coming for the Duke and the gold boot on January 13th.
I didn't know the Amish could use microphones, so I'm glad that he got on and called out a match for himself. And he can bring all of his Amish wares, his whoopie pies, and all the other stuff. And he could his birdhouses, and he can go for that Haas boot.
I was talking with him after the show, and we decided that if he wins the Haas boot, he's going to turn in the butter churner, and he's going to start churning butter in the boot. So that's my gift to the world if that happens.
That would be amazing. He has to get a smaller churn, though. That boot's not as big as that wood one.
I think he could take the stick part out and put it in the boot. It'll be all right.
The guy's churning butter in a wrestling boot. We got to go see this fella.
Yep.
Make AIW Haas again.
Maybe they're going for something here. Maybe they're really trying to get to something at this point.
I mean, maybe 2022 is the return to the Haas division. Like it's kind of been dormant, and there's enough competition in AIW for the Haas boot. And I
like the sound of it.
There's enough talent to bring in for the Haas boot on top of it too. Like there can be so much fun stuff, but I'm going to wait for the day that the Duke loses it and we see the resurgence, and we'll see if that day's January 13th. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we got Riley Rose versus Lee Johnson. Thoughts on this match, Butters?
This is a pretty awkward match. It ended abruptly. Not the best showing for Riley. There was a really good drop kick by Lee Johnson that looked nasty. Hopefully, Riley can learn from this, come back and do something else.
How about you, Jay Gold?
That's actually, Butters, that's exactly what I was, you couldn't have said it any better. It was an awkward match. I don't know what I have not seen enough of Lee Johnson to have an opinion on him either way, because I don't really, I don't get anything out of him as far as AEW goes. I know he's a Nightmare Factory student or whatever they call him. But yeah, that wasn't Riley's best performance. Could have been better. Could have been crisper. And I think it was just kind of there, that match. And don't get me wrong, I love, I like to see Riley Rose after go for broke and such, but I think this was not the right. I guess this just wasn't the right night for him. So we take it, we move on. But yeah, it was just kind of there. It was one of the more mediocre matches I've seen live at AEW. I mean at AIW.
Yeah, there's just something about the match that was a little off. I think outside of what you guys said, I don't know what necessarily add to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Lee pinning Riley Rose for the win. Let's see if Cage Match has a listing of how long this was. Oh, it does. Surprisingly, the match 6 minutes and 4 seconds.
That was short. That's something for a guy who they hyped up. Part of the reason why they were selling tickets was, Lee Johnson from AEW. So, to give him 6 minutes in that kind of style it was just maybe it just wasn't, the chemistry wasn't there from the beginning.
Surprisingly enough, I mean, well, I would say not surprising. It was the shortest match on the card, but there were a couple that were right around that same time. Main event versus members only was 6 minutes, 6 seconds. Ethan Wright versus Pretty Boy Smooth was 6 minutes, 48 seconds. And Jocelyn versus Chase was 7 minutes, 1 second.
But you know what? They felt different. There was a chemistry to them and such. There was this one just did not have any. There was no chemistry in this match. On paper, it looked right. On paper, I would have told you that these guys were going to have a really good, type of match. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out like that, I think.
Yeah, sometimes, you have an awkward pairing. Things happen. Unfortunately, this was one of those times.
Mm-hmm.
And it also could be a great pairing, just bad day. I've heard that story many times, especially the one that comes to my mind first was CM Punk versus John Morrison. I remember I don't remember which one it was. They had one stinker. And, I think that one is what lived in Punk's mind, even though they had a bunch before and after that were on a higher level. But you just have days where it's, for one reason or another, it's just not there. So, whatever it is, hopefully this is not something we would see more of from either of them.
I doubt it. It was just a bad night, I think.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Here we go. Ziggy Heim versus Bill Alfonso. And the only rule is Derek Dillinger and Matt Justice are banned from ringside. Fun fact, Derek was ringside-ish. He was kind of in the corner by us, but not like ringside, not within the barricade. So he did do his part on that one, but just know he was getting a good view of the match still. What were your thoughts on this match, Butters?
So, everybody had their expectations going in of Fonzie versus Beulah and this either topping it or being just as good. I think this pairing was sort of awkward, but I think that they did their best with what they could do. Obviously, Fonzie is much older than he was when he faced Beulah. Times are much different. He still got busted open. They still did some different stuff. Overall, I enjoyed what this match was for what it needed to be. And I was happy with the result.
How about you, Jiggle?
Yeah, this match was exactly what I wanted it to be. Fonzie's in his 60s at this point? Like, that's exactly what I thought was going. He was awkward in the Beulah match. It's not like he was putting on, a Dean Malenko 5-star match against Beulah. He was awkward. He's lanky and he's Fonzie's kind of all over the place. And Ziggy is awkward and she does crazy things. And she hit him in the beginning with that cookie sheet and it cut open his eye in a weird spot. And he was bleeding into his eye most of the match trying to get it out of his eye. And they were slapping the crap out of each other. Like at one point he rips open her shirt and slaps her in the chest 2 or 3 times. And she punched him in the face and then DVD'd him through the door on the side. It was exactly the glorious mess that this match should be. There was nothing else that we could have expected. Again, if they would have chain wrestled, I think you would have heard me screaming like a little schoolgirl on the side because it would have been hilarious. But it's exactly what we wanted, and that's how that feud needs to continue on, with just more blood, more violence, more intensity. I think you just let those two kind of beat each other up. It was good.
Bill Alfonso is 64 years old.
My God. Indestructible Bill Alfonso.
And he was 40 or around 40 at the time of just past 40 when he had his match against Beulah.
I mean, it makes sense. He's not a young guy, but you got to give him credit. He got up and made his way out afterwards. It's very impressive.
It was Ziggy pinning Bill Alfonso for the win. So is this feud over?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
We gotta have the final showdown between Derek and Justice. Something crazy.
I don't know when that's going to happen, but
fans bring the weapons. Something.
Yep, it's got to be something outrageous.
All right, let's move on to the main event. So all the teams from earlier in the night, bulking season versus the main event versus the Rip City Shooters, Joshua Bishop and Wes Barkley in a ladder match for the #1 contenders to the AIW tag team titles. Now, I mentioned earlier there was kind of like a loophole. I was kind of surprised that didn't get used, but I understand why it didn't. Imagine if Bitcoin Boys were like, we were on the card, we were in a tag team match, and we won. Now, granted, they were in a 6-man, and I think that is probably why it wasn't, but I don't know. Adding them to it, be like, well, we won our match. Let's add us to it. But
yeah, I just don't think that was in the cards for them yet. That's just the way they were.
I'm talking along the lines of a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of like that works for them, like them trying to like scheme that #1 contendership. I mean, we'll see where we go with them because I know they want tag title shots too.
They'll get theirs. Duke will get them somewhat. They'll get there somehow.
What were your thoughts on this match, Jay Golden?
I liked it. I wasn't blown away by it. I think the intensity of it was really good. I think there was some potential for it to be really, really dangerous because it's a very small area around ringside. So like doing anything where guys are falling out of the ring is very difficult. But it felt like a really big match, and it felt like a very big moment to be a part of. So that was very cool. I enjoyed the outcome, and there was a couple of weird, awkward moments in the match. The time when Bishop's on the ladder and Philly comes out with a mask. He was up there for a little longer than I thought he probably wanted to be. And then Philly came out and pushed him off the ladder, and Josh went to the floor. That was a weird, I don't know if you guys felt it. It was an awkward spot. It like seemed to have lasted a little too long where Bishop was trying to grab the contract. But otherwise, it felt big. It felt like a big match. I don't know if it was a 5-star, but it was good. It got over the guys that needed to get over. And I think everybody went home happy at the end of it.
Any thoughts on it, Butters?
This was probably my third ladder match I've ever seen live. This one probably being the only triple threat. I'm pretty sure, the other two were just tag team. Pretty wild to see live. Lots of interesting spots. I was happy with who won, and overall, I'm curious to see where everybody goes from there.
So it was already mentioned that Philly came out and did kind of cost the match for Rip City. Obviously, just kind of like took them out of the picture for the ending, and it ended up being main event, capturing that #1 contenders for the AIW tag team titles. And it's something that a lot of us have been waiting for since kind of early on with these dudes. And I'm happy to see it happen. I'm happy to see these guys do what they do.
Yeah, I think it really is. I think it's exactly the logical victors should they want to move Bishop back into the title, the world title thing, and they don't want one group or one guy having every single belt. I think that got them through the pandemic, the last 10 months that worked. But I think they need to kind of get Rip City or Bishop back into the world title and the intense title search. So you got to get some new blood in there to start challenging, I think. And that's the right answer.
Anything to add, Butters?
No, I mean, the main event, in my opinion, have been ready to go after the tag titles since the Akron show. And this puts them now rightfully where they need to be. So going into 2022, they're going to get their title match and lots of things to look forward to going in, especially with the Rip City Broski feud.
All right, that's pretty much a show. Any final thoughts on the show, Jay Gold?
Oh, it's just I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a really fun holiday show, and I think that there were obviously some changes had to be made across the board for this card. Regardless of whose status is who, but I thought they did their best. I thought the Thorne birthday party thing was fun. I thought Isaiah Broner becoming a star is a great moment. And, Derek and Lawler really continuing on with just those guys are just so solid, man. But otherwise, yeah, I think it was a fun show and it was a fun night, and I was glad to be around everybody and see it in person.
How about you, Butters?
That was a nice way to close out 2021 and gave us lots to look forward to for 2022, I should say.
Yeah, there's something I always say about Hell on Earth and the December show, especially when it falls closer to Christmas. Obviously, this wasn't one of those that fell closer to Christmas. And when I say fall closer to Christmas, I mean like 23rd, 22nd, or like 26th, 27th. Like those have a very special vibe to it. But it's still end of the year. We're closing out this year for AIW, and there's a lot that we're trying to build towards, or AIW is trying to build towards, and we're going to try to go back to a normal schedule next year. Hopefully that all pans out, and we got, like, especially here on the show, we have, we're going to do our end of the year stuff here in a few weeks. If you go to our Twitter, I have put out a tweet. It will be ending Sunday night, early Monday morning. Basically right now it's nominations for particular categories, because normally we do this like just on the show and there's not necessarily official winners. It's, hey, I said this, Charly said this, Pam said this, Stacy said that, whoever is particularly on the episode this year, it's going to be opened up, and I will actually have a record of everybody who's voted, and I will be able to pull that during the show, and I could tell you like off the list of who people actually voted for, because that will be the next step next week. After all the nominations are done, I'm going to narrow the lists down to see what came up the most, or what probably deserves to be in that spot. But if there's enough options, like it's going to be like what got the most votes, like top 4 or 5. And then we'll announce the winners on the year-end show. That still hasn't been booked. And I think what I'm going to do too, there's going to be a separate one where people will be able to give predictions of certain things that'll happen in AIW, things that we also do for the year-end show. But now, instead of me having to go back and re-listen to what everybody said on the show, I'm going to be able to just pull a Google document and it's going to tell me exactly what everybody said. So be on the lookout for that. That kind of ends it for the year for AIW shows. Any final thoughts, last minute plugs before we go? Jay Gold?
Nope, just my Twitter, JGold12.
How about you, Butters?
Oh, and sorry, if I could, real quick, since this is probably the last show I'll be on for the year with you guys, it's been a pleasure. Hope everyone has a great Christmas and a great New Year's, and I look forward to more wrestling in 2022.
Okay, how about you, Butters?
You could follow me on Twitter at Charly_Butters. My podcast, IWTV Guide, is intermittent right now. We just did an episode last week with Derek Dillinger and Jay Gold, and you can check that out if you haven't already. And next year, we're going to be making some changes, so that's going to be fun. Get back to a more regular schedule then. And I'm also working on a fun collab with the production. I can't say anything else right now, but be on the lookout for that on my Twitter and my the IWTV Guide podcast Twitter as well.
And of course, you can find myself at jsummers330 on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, much like you can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email if you so choose to desire, wrestlingcheers@gmail.com, and we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said earlier in this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe your ever listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, or Podbean, wrestlingcheers.podbean.com. Check out our friends on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, Eurovision Showcase, Spanish Announce Table, and Wrestling with Altitude. Check out our other podcast friends, such as Pod Van Dam, Super Fantastic Podcast, It's Evolution, Baby, the IndieCast, Sobros Network, Biff Radio, Game Marks Podcast, Powerbomb Jutsu, Spotlight Series, Fully Posable, Doing the Favor, Positively Pro Wrestling, IWTV Guide, If You Catch My Grift, At Odds with Wrestling, Best in the World Podcast, Marks with Mikes, This Ends at Prom, and Porch Talk. Check out our other non-podcasting friends such as Thrift Store Jobber, The Savage Stash, The Mystery Men, Redline Radio, Mouse's Wrestling Adventure, VHS Party Tonight on Instagram, Good Company, Heart of Gold, Toy Hio Toy Show, Time Capsule Toys, Stay Tough, Smokin' Jay's Barbecue, and be sure to use the 10% off code when you order of Cheers, so you can save yourself a little money. Wrestle Void, Midwest Territory, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when it's come on, bitch. Later.
It's the Wrestling Cheers. Get up on your feet, brightening your day in the middle of the week. And you gotta love the show. Yeah, you know it holds a title for the best podcast. Talking wrestling in Ohio. Finishing a cold one, take a load off. We ain't all about the prohibition like Josh, so we cheers. And then we sit back. Other shows are in the trash, kinda like they Nick Stapp. Like the name is Matt Justice, wearing all the gold. Wrestling Cheers is coming to a close. The #1 podcast going in the game. And one day everybody's gonna know the name. It's the Wrestling Cheers. This is Platinum Max, signing off. Ohio, good night. The world, good night. We love you. We'll see you next week.